Hey, what's happening, Roland? Well, here's the update for the week. Have you ever had a really perfect week? Well, I had a close to perfect week last week. You know, any week to me is perfect when it's just all hunting and fishing for the whole week. That's basically what I did all week. It was just a glorious week. Here it is, the first week of March, more or less, and spring is sprung. It's pretty warm. Well, it's a little chilly right now. I got my little jacket on, but it's not bad. It's really not bad. I got shorts on. But starting off the weekend, I took my granddaughter, Amelia, turkey hunting. It was the youth season in Florida. It's the opening season for the youth thing. And guess what? I got her a beautiful, almost 20-pound turkey. We called it in. I had my remote decoy, and I had my favorite call. And I'm sitting there, and I had this little 410. I wish I had my little 410. It's a little 410 shotgun with a special load, a special TSS load, and it has a red dots little sight on it. And I told Amelia, I said, Amelia, now when it comes in, you hold that little red dot just below its head, and sure enough, this big old gobbler came right up to the decoy and was going to fight it. It was going to jump up and jump all over it. Amelia was all worried about, she hadn't ever shot that gun. So, she really hadn't done a lot of shooting. I was just coaching her the whole time. And sure enough, when she pulled the trigger, at 25 yards, it dropped that turkey deader than a hammer, never even moved. The one thing when you're starting off turkey hunting, one of the things that, she was trying to learn, and one of the things she was doing was sitting in this little bitty blind, little bit low blind, and just her heads were sticking up. But every few minutes, what she'd do, she'd turn her head and look over this way, or she'd look over that way. When you're turkey hunting, you can't look like that. You can't look like that. If you think you see something to the left, you go like this. That slow. If you think you're seeing something to the right, you go that slow. You don't do that. You don't do that. And the other thing you don't do, and I had to tell her, she wore white fingernail polish. She's 13. So the rage now is white fingernail polish. So she had white fingernail polish, and she likes to comb her hair. She's got pretty hair. And so she's always kind of doing this with her hair. And I'm saying, Amelia, you can't do that. A turkey's going to come up out there 50, 60, 80, 100 yards away and see your white fingernails and you brushing your hair and stuff. Well, I got her to wear a hat and a mask. And I said, now you don't move your hands. I didn't have any gloves for her. I didn't have any camouflage gloves. I lost them all. But anyway, she did. She sat there just perfectly still. And then, this call of mine is exquisite. What I did to get them in, these turkeys had been with the hens all morning. And what happened, at about 10 o'clock, the hens go to roost, and they go on their nest, rather. And sometimes the big boss gobbler, which this one was a big boss gobbler, almost 20 pounds, it leaves those hens. And so now, thinking he's looking for more hens, I'm a hen. And I did a little cutting, and that cutting really got him. Now, my other grandson, Jacob, was doing the film work, and he had heard, I got pretty good hearing with my hearing aids, but his hearing is even better. And he heard a turkey way to the north, and I said, are you sure? He said, yeah. So I kept cutting, and finally I just series of yelps like this, and finally I could hear him gobble. And sure enough, he just came right in. It was a beautiful hunt. Well, anyway, my turkey calls are doing good. I'm selling quite a few of them. And I have a new finishing process where I finish them just a certain way. It's real smooth. And I use this happens to be a walnut top, but I also use the acacia wood top. That's a wood that comes from Australia, and it came down in a hurricane, Irma, not long ago, and I had a bunch of it cut up. But anyway, I make a really good turkey call. That's the first thing. That was last weekend. Then I started doing other things. Well, before I get started on all the fishing, everybody had been complaining to me, and they said, Roland, I don't know if I believe all your weights. I'm bragging about these 8 and 9 pound bass or 10 pound bass. They don't always look that big. So I invested in this beautiful scale. This costs almost $100. This is a Major League Fishing scale. And when you turn it on right here. Look at it, goes all to 8s. And then finally it goes to 0. Okay, and when you pull down on it, you can really see those numbers good. Those numbers really show up. So now there's no fooling around. Now I'm taking these big bass that I'm catching, and I did catch a couple really big ones this week, and I put them on the scale, and by golly, you can see the numbers. That's a big deal. So now I have more credibility. Okay, let's look at some of these fish I caught. Well, okay, I had a couple good guide trips, and what I did, I went in and let's see right here. Here I caught a big swimbait fish. That was a big swimbait fish. Now let me just show you. That's almost 10 pounds. And what that one was, that was on this hardtail. I call it a hardtail grub. It's really a hardtail minnow by Yamamoto. It's 4.5 inches long, and it really swims good. I put it on that great big hook, and this is 50-pound braid because I was running it over a hydrilla. I'm running on a big the Pro Series flipping stick with an 8-to-1 Solace reel by Favorite. Anyway, these are both Favorite rods and reels. And I'm making long casts and just a steady retrieve. You'll just right over the hydrilla. And late in the afternoon, there was really some big fish biting. So that was the first real big deal going on. Okay, then I'm going to turn this thing off, by the way. I have to turn my scale off. Okay, it's off. Then, as you know, the next morning, I get up and there's a good calm morning. And you know when it's really calm and you can throw into these little pockets and really target little pockets in the grass and maybe little shoreline areas of hyacinths and little pockets of bulrushes and stuff. That devil's horse, I just can't help but think, you catch so many beautiful bass, and I caught some other big bass, well anyway, some other 7 and 8 pound bass on this devil's horse. And how I work it is, the swim bait I'm just covering water, and that's one thing. But with the devil's horse, this is an ambush point lure. This is throwing to a little pocket. This is throwing to a bush. This is just working a small little area. I also use it on 20-pound monofilament, and I use a double line right here, a Bimini twist line. It gives me the ability to see how it sticks out, and now it doesn't get wrapped around the propeller. The front propeller stays. If you just tie it directly, and 20-pound line isn't bad, but say 10-pound line is not good. 10-pound line, the line gets all wrapped around the spinner all the time. So I like to use heavier line and a double line, and that gives you more strength, but it also keeps you from tying that front little hook and front little propeller up into the line. Okay, throwing it on a nice Favorite rod and reel. Okay, now I'm really getting down to some good stuff. You know, anytime I'd miss a fish, anytime last week, and in fact I might even have a fish or two that I missed if I can find one. We had some beautiful bass that came along. This gal here, she finally caught one on a worm. Let's see what this is. Look at that big one. Oh, that's a monster. I was teaching her how to worm fish, and she hadn't ever caught a big bass. So the thing is, it took me hours to teach her how to cast and hours to teach her how to set the hook, but she did pretty well. Okay, let's see another good one, and that was a worm fish. And then this guy here, he catches another big giant one on a swim bait. Woo! Look at that one. That was over 8 pounds. Anyway, that was a good fish. But we're getting down, and this worm that kind of we're using a lot is this worm here. Let me just show you what it is. It's a regular Cinco, and one of the colors that I've been using lately is this 021. It's a black and blue flake, and I'm running on this happens to be 20-pound line. I went ahead and 20-pound monofilament, and it casts pretty good. And I'm using a 1/16 of an ounce weight, and that's a screw-in weight. So what I do when I rig it up, it screws right into the height of the worm, and it kind of makes it really, really come through the grass better and sink better. Anyway, it's just a nice compliment. That's just a perfect deal. A 1/16 of an ounce lead weight, and it helps it go through the grass really good. Okay, we're getting back there now. I also did some really cool fishing, if I can find it. Oh, look at that whopper plopper fish. Ha ha ha. I might have even shown you that before, but anyway, this whopper plopper fish, that was another really good bait Oh gosh, I got some water in it. You know, that's the other thing I just noticed right now. I was wondering why it was running funny. See how the water's in that whopper plopper? Ooh, I'm gonna have to change it out. I'm glad I picked it up and held it to the light, because see, that's not the right. Now it's got water in it. That's good. That's not good. It's not gonna run right. So anyway, I'll have to change that out. But whopper plopper has caught some really big fish, but you don't catch very many on a whopper plopper. You're making long casts, reel it in. Long casts, reel it in. Hundreds and hundreds of casts, and I tell people, if you want to come to Okeechobee or the Headwaters Lake or some of these other places I go, if you want to just do that and just catch one big bass over 6 pounds, you can do that in a day, but you'll have to throw that thing all day long or just for a couple strikes. But it does produce big bass, okay? But here's the deal. You know what I probably don't talk much about as much as I used to? I am an expert on shiners. Let me just go back and talk about the heydays of Okeechobee back in the 80s when I had the marina really cracking. I had 3 great big tanks. I had 120 dozen shiners a day that I'd had go in there. I had trained 4 and 5 different shiner catchers. I showed them how to cast nets. I showed them how to add all the aquaflavin and salt to keep the water quality right. I showed them how to cure them out. I had built these tanks out of fiberglass. I did all this work, and we had the most successful shiner operation ever. And we caught hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of big bass, our guide trips, all the people did. And Lake Okeechobee was known worldwide for its shiner fishing. Well, some of that changed over the years, and people have gotten away from shiners a little bit, and the lake's not quite the shiner lake it was, but there are lakes coming online right now, like the Headwaters Lake right now is another one that's kind of new. It's only 5 or 6 years old, and we're really starting to see the shiner fishing really capitalize. Okay. Let me just tell you a little bit about what I do shiner fishing. First of all, I make my own weedless hooks. That is a hook, that's a Gamakatsu 6/0, and I take a number 7 stainless steel wire, and I make my own weed guard. Now here's the deal about these weed guards. This weed guard, you can hit the thing from the side, it goes off. You can hit it from this side, it goes off. So many of the commercial hooks that you buy are loose and they don't hold their rigidity. Number 1, you have to super glue them, and number 2, you hit them from the side and it gets hung up on the hook point. You miss not half the fish, but you miss some of the fish that bite the weedless hook because the weed guard's in the way. It messes it all up. Okay, that's the first thing I do. The second thing I do is I use the new really the way to shiner fish now is with braided line, because braided line floats, and I also put fly line dressing on my line to make sure it floats even better. And I like to use the balloon system. I take the balloon system and I put a little bobber stop on the line, take an overhand knot, and just tie that balloon. It slides up and down the line. Now remember, here's the deal. You can make that balloon as big as you want, but you don't want it big. You want it small, because all this balloon does is gives it indication of where the shiner is. Maybe it holds it at a certain depth as well, but it doesn't have a lot of function. It's not something that you want big. You want it small because they'll pull it under, and if it's a great big balloon, it's going to be a lot of resistance, and they'll drop it. So that's a kind of a problem. Well, anyway, the shiner fishing this week has really been good, and look at this big old 10-pounder. Oh, let's see if I can find it. Man, you're talking about some big fish. You know, over the years, I had caught some monster bass on shiners. My biggest string ever was 5 that went 50-something pounds. I had another 5 that went 50-something pounds out of Okeechobee. I had another over 55 pounds out of Rodman Reservoir back in the early 80s. Well, 75, 76, 77, all those years. I took my first wife and got her a 12.5 pounder one time. That same day I had a 10.5 pounder. So I mean, those are the kind of days we had years ago, 30, 40 years ago. It was really so good. And they can still exist today. And now here's the thing, you have to have really good shiners, and I'm going to do some subsequent films on how to keep the shiners, how to catch the shiners, how to fish the shiners for really big trophy bass, because I'm really an expert at catching really big trophy bass on a shiner. I want to pass that on. But anyway, look at this big old fish. I had one here, if I can find it. Look at this big guy. Woo, son. That's a big one. just a couple ounces less than 10. But anyway, that scale helps, and it really showed. I'm just doing the whole gamut of bass fishing, but I'm really kind of concentrating on the bigger fish. So I'm going to Headwaters Pond a lot, fishing a little bit at Okeechobee a lot. I'm fishing for big bass in general. Whether it's a lure or whether it's a shiner, I'm trying to catch that double-digit fish. I don't always do it. I've caught a few, but that's my goal. But anyway, perfect week, fishing and hunting every day. How can you beat it? And I hope I've passed on a little bit of information to you in the process. So listen, folks, hey, thanks for watching and thanks for subscribing. Hey, hit that likes button. We'll see you again soon.